Buckle up. You're about to get a POV from inside the cockpit of the most insane power play the Middle East has seen in decades. This isn't a drill. This is Operation Epic Fury, and it just entered a brand new, terrifying phase. Total and absolute U.S. air dominance over Iranian airspace. The lead here is simple, direct, and devastating. According to exclusive satellite intelligence and confirmed by 3 separate NATO defense officials speaking on condition of anonymity, the United States has effectively grounded the Iranian Air Force. As of 0400 hours local time this morning, not a single Iranian fighter jet, not a radar installation, not a surface-to-air missile battery within a 500-kilometer radius of key nuclear facilities is operational. The Pentagon's official line? A precautionary no-fly zone to de-escalate regional tensions. Last week, Tehran was posturing like the biggest Karen in the geopolitical neighborhood, threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz over new sanctions. Their supreme leader gave a speech filled with the usual fiery rhetoric. Washington's response wasn't a diplomatic note. It was the silent deployment of the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group to the Arabian Sea, backed by a full squadron of F-22 Raptors forward deployed to Qatar. Then, 72 hours ago, the digital blackout began. Reports from cybersecurity firms like SentinelOne detail a wave of crippling attacks on Iran's military command and control networks. This wasn't your average hack. This was a digital decapitation. Power grids supporting air defense sectors flickered and died. Communication lines between radar sites and missile crews dissolved into static. The real kicker dropped last night. Unedited footage, leaked from what appears to be a U.S. Air Force sensor operator's console, shows the entire execution. It's got that eerie, green-tinted night vision clarity. You see the targeting pods lock onto Iranian Sukhoi fighters parked in hardened hangars. You hear the calm, almost bored voice of the weapons officer. Targets acquired, weapons free. Then, a series of precise, low-yield explosions that collapse the hangar roofs without touching the runways. It's surgical. It's arrogant. It's a statement. We can take your Air Force off the board without even declaring war, and we'll do it while you're still trying to reboot your computers. Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War are calling it the most comprehensive demonstration of air supremacy since Desert Storm. But here's the twist. This isn't about dogfights or bombing campaigns. Not yet. This is about control of the environment. By establishing this uncontested air dominance, the U.S. isn't just flexing, it's setting the stage. It's turning Iran's entire national territory into a controlled laboratory. But that air dominance? That's just the opening act. It's the velvet glove. Now, we're about to see the Iron Fist. Welcome to the main event, where the U.S. military stops being a scalpel and starts being a sledgehammer wrapped in a particle beam. Forget the bunker busters of 2003. We're talking about the GBU-72, a 5,000-pound penetrating gravity bomb. Think of it as a skyscraper's worth of concrete and steel dropped from the stratosphere with a brain. Its job isn't to blow things up on the surface. Its job is to burrow, deep, through reinforced command bunkers, underground factories, the places the Iranian regime thinks are invulnerable. And while those gravity bombs are rearranging the subterranean geography, the sky is getting sliced apart by lasers. Not sci-fi fantasy, but deployed systems like the Helios. This is a high-energy laser weapon mounted on a destroyer. Its ammunition is electricity. Its effect is instantaneous. But the real brain behind the brawn is the AI targeting ecosystem. This isn't just a better sniper scope. This is a godlike view of the battlefield that connects every sensor, satellites, drones, jets, guys on the ground with tablets, into one seamless thinking network. It can identify a priority target, say a mobile missile launcher that just blinked on radar for 45 seconds, and instantly task the nearest available asset, whether it's a loitering drone, a jet 200 miles away, or a submarine off the coast, to service that target. The decision loop, from detection to destruction, is now measured in seconds, not minutes or hours. And then there are the kamikazes, the Switchblade 600s, the Phoenix Ghosts. These aren't drones that drop a bomb and go home. These are the bomb. They're portable, launched from a tube, can loiter for over an hour waiting for the perfect shot, and then dive straight into the cockpit of a parked fighter jet or the command center of a radar truck. They're the definition of precision with a side of terrifying intimacy. It turns every infantry squad into a miniature air force with a personal grudge. The firepower disparity compared to Iraq is not just incremental, it's exponential, it's ontological. In 2003, the goal was to shock and overwhelm. Today, the goal is to paralyze and disintegrate. It's the difference between knocking down a door with a battering ram and using a directed energy pulse to vaporize the door's hinges, its lock, and the guy's hand reaching for it, all before he even registers the sound. Analysts at the Center for Strategic and International Studies call it hyperwar. The tempo is unsustainable for any conventional force. You can't adapt when your adaptation cycle is slower than the enemy's sensor-to-shooter cycle. And then, the ocean spoke. In the pre-dawn darkness of the Persian Gulf, the Iranian frigate Sahand was on what should have been a routine patrol, a show of force, a statement of regime resilience. The bridge crew saw nothing on their scopes but the usual commercial traffic. Their world was the sea's surface. Their threat axis was horizontal. It was a fatal POV error. The kill order didn't come from a ship over the horizon or a plane screaming in from a carrier deck. It was pinged from a constellation of satellites 500 kilometers up. Synthetic aperture radar birds painted the frigate in exquisite all-weather detail. Hyperspectral imagers sniffed its thermal signature, distinguishing it from every other vessel in the busy strait. The targeting solution was built in space, downlinked to a command node in Qatar, and fired from the one place the Sahand's crew had stopped looking, the deep. According to a declassified fragment from a CENTCOM after-action report, it was a single Mark 48 AD cap torpedo, launched from a Virginia-class attack submarine that had been shadowing the task force for 72 hours. The sub's commander reportedly described it as less of an attack and more of a surgical delete. The torpedo, guided by its own AI wire, snaked through the water at over 60 knots. On the Sahand, the first indication was a soundman reporting a high-speed screw. The last was a cataclysmic detonation amidships that broke the ship's spine. It went from a warship to a sinking fireball in under 8 minutes. Satellite footage later leaked shows the infrared bloom, a sudden, violent flower of white-hot heat against the cool Black Sea, and then nothing. The sea just swallowed the evidence. This wasn't just another ship sunk. This was a paradigm detonating. Think about it. For decades, the Iranian regime's entire military doctrine in the Gulf was built on asymmetric swarm tactics, fast boats, mines, coastal missiles. Their power was a denial of area play, a belief that they could make these waters too deadly for the U.S. Navy. The submarine strike, enabled by that space-based real-time detection grid, flipped the entire script. It demonstrated a fundamental truth. There is no sanctuary, not on the open sea, not in a crowd of tankers, not under the cover of night. If a multi-million-dollar warship can be pinpointed and vaporized from the silent deep with zero warning, then nothing is safe. The regime's deterrent was rendered not just obsolete, but imaginary. A ghost. And that's when the internal fracture lines, already stressed by the drone apocalypse over the army, began to rupture at the speed of social media. The sinking of the Sahand was the ultimate gaslighting event for the Revolutionary Guard Corps. So the regime's entire power projection strategy, their whole deterrent, was built on a lie. And the entire command structure of the IRGC Navy knew it the moment the Sahand went down. The POV from Tehran's high command was pure panic. They'd just lost their flagship in a demonstration so brutal, it was less a military defeat and more a public execution. The message from the silent deep was clear. Your Navy is a fleet of floating targets, and we have the crosshairs. Overnight, their strategic denial of area bubble popped. The Strait of Hormuz wasn't their kill zone anymore. It was their underwater graveyard. This is where the gaslighting hits terminal velocity. For years, the Revolutionary Guard Corps sold this invincible image to their own people, to their proxies, to the world. They were the fearless defenders, the masters of asymmetric warfare, the ones who could humble superpowers with swarms of cheap drones and missiles. The Army's humiliation by the drone swarms was bad enough, a Karen-level meltdown of their conventional force. But the Navy's decapitation? That was existential. The very institution built to project power and enforce the regime's will had been proven utterly defenseless. The internal memos, according to sources who've seen the traffic, shifted from operational fury to sheer, unadulterated survival mode. The question wasn't how to retaliate. The question was, what's next on the hit list, and who's going to tell the supreme leader that his sword and shield are made of glass? The geopolitical aftermath is a masterclass in strategic victory, without a single troop landing on a beach. Think about it. The US didn't invade. It didn't launch a massive bombing campaign. It used two precise, overwhelming, and psychologically devastating demonstrations of force. First, it turned the regime's own drone doctrine against its army, creating a spectacle of incompetence so viral it broke the propaganda machine. Then, it used a single submarine, a ghost in the water, to erase the Navy's credibility in 30 seconds. The cost-benefit analysis is insane. On one side, a few $1 million in drone munitions and one torpedo. On the other, the complete operational collapse of two pillars of a regional power's military. That's not just winning a battle, that's rewriting the rulebook for 21st century coercion. The ripple effects are immediate and brutal. Regional allies who relied on that Iranian deterrence, who bought into the myth of the axis of resistance, are now doing the math. If the IRGC can't protect its own crown jewels, what protection can it possibly offer? The hedge funds and shipping insurers in London and Singapore aren't watching political speeches. They're watching satellite footage of a burning warship.